either younger than us or, passed and retired. So why not? I want to challenge myself. The best always looking to fight the best and challenge themselves, and why not, challenge.
Terence Crawford can't beat him, right? This is a money grab for Terence Crawford. It's just a situation where Terence Crawford is trying to fill up his bank account opposed to actually his legacy.
But if you study Floyd closely, like I have, you will notice that he never wastes any steps while he's in the ring.
Terence Crawford reportedly accepts Floyd Mayweather's fight offer during a live interview with Steven. A Smith Crawford explains that for him, boxing is about testing limits and taking on challenges no matter how big they are. He emphasizes that the best should fight the best, and he is ready to step up once again with calm confidence. Crawford makes it clear that facing Mayweather is another way for him to prove himself and push beyond every expectation.
Man, because this is Terrence the businessman talking, right? They got to pay the cheddar to make it better, right?
For sure, for sure. All money ain't good money, so you got to know that.
Okay, fair enough. I hate to use the word easy, but at times it did feel like you were, having a really easy time out there. Were you expecting it to play out that way?
Listen, it's never easy,
Stephen A. Smith has always been outspoken in his coverage of sports, and boxing is no exception when he praises Terence Crawford for becoming a champion in 4 different weight divisions. It is not just a casual compliment, but an acknowledgement of an achievement that is rare in modern boxing in today's era, where fighters often hesitate to move across divisions because of the risks involved. Crawford's ability to dominate at 4 different weights places him in a unique category. Stephen stresses that such versatility and dominance establish Crawford as an all-time great pound-for-pound fighter. It highlights not only his physical adaptability, but also his technical mastery, mental toughness, and desire to keep challenging himself against increasingly difficult competition.
Terence Crawford is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this 4-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds, claiming all the belts. You don't see people doing that very often. Going up against a guy who was perceived as being bigger and stronger, Crawford was strong. Crawford was strong enough to fend him off, strong enough to make him respect his own power. He used his jab. He used his distance. He had poise in the ring. He wasn't rattled. He backed up and moved when necessary and kept his different. He exchanged enough to gain respect when necessary. It was a brilliant, brilliant, masterful fight on Terence Crawford's.
Crawford's part Roy Jones Jr., a legend who knows firsthand what it takes to reign across divisions, has spoken highly of Crawford's brilliance in the ring. He points out that in Crawford's fight with Canelo Alvarez, he demonstrated the ability to borrow from the arsenals of Floyd Mayweather and Erislandy Lara, 2 fighters who had troubled Canelo in different ways. According to Jones, this ability to observe, study, and then apply effective strategies makes Crawford special. It proves that he is not only a skilled fighter, but also a sharp student of the sport. What impressed Jones most was how Crawford didn't simply imitate, but adapted these techniques into his own rhythm, making them more effective in real-time situations. This adaptability separates him from many fighters who stick to one style and struggle against elite opposition.
As Canelo Alvarez has been a great fighter his whole career, people like Erislandy Lara gave you the blueprint on how to beat him. People like Floyd Mayweather also gave you the blueprint on how to beat him. But Bud is more fierce, more fearsome, and more angrier and more meaner than both of those guys. So if they showed you the blueprint, Bud gonna go out there, take that blueprint, and do even more with it, which is what Bud did. So it was never a question in my mind whether Bud really was going to outbox me, just if he could take the punch. And right away he showed, bam, he could take the punch. So I knew from that point, if he just slow him down, which he did, he'd be okay. Then late in the fight, what other people still didn't see, late in the fight, Bud started hitting Canelo's body. One of those body shots, I think about the 7th or 8th round, hurt Canelo. I was like, whoa. Bud hit him in the right spot then, and he got Canelo's respect with that too. So Bud fought a very, very awesome fight, fought a beautiful fight, very tactical.
Very controlled.
Yes, it was a beautiful fight for boxing.
It was a beautiful fight. Bud got hit with some shots.
He did. He got
hit with some single shots going out. He's going out, and Canelo, if he has you trapped in the corner
or along the ropes, it's typically 1 to 2 big shots. You know that if you've watched him.
Yep.
So you could tell Crawford, as he was going out, he knew the one shot was coming, and several times it landed. He even got hit with a 2-piece. I don't remember what round it was, uppercut right hand that Crawford took well. So when you started seeing him absorb the shots, if you're Team Crawford, you don't want him to take that shot. But if you started seeing that, now you know that, okay. And I think that's what gave Crawford the green light to stay there a little bit longer.
He smiled about it.
He smiled about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that smile can be a lie. And sometimes that smile can mean what I think it meant for Crawford, which is, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it was.
The idea of Crawford stepping into the ring with Floyd Mayweather, even in an exhibition match, has sparked intense debate. Critics argue that a fight of this nature might undermine Crawford's legacy. They believe that instead of building on his historic victories, such as dismantling Errol Spence and outclassing Kane, he would be chasing financial rewards rather than competitive glory. This perception stems from the fact that Mayweather's recent career has centered on high-paying exhibition fights rather than meaningful legacy bouts. Analysts point out that Crawford has worked too hard to risk being seen as someone prioritizing money over history. On the other hand, others argue that Crawford's legacy is already secure, and if he chooses to fight Mayweather, it would simply add another fascinating chapter to his story.
For Terence Crawford, it's just a situation where Terence Crawford is trying to fill up his bank account opposed to actually his legacy. This is what was being said, right? This is what people perceived. Terence Crawford was just attempting to cash out.
When fans compare the careers of Mayweather and Crawford, the conversation becomes complex. Floyd's resume includes wins against some of the greatest names in the sport. However, critics of Floyd often point out the timing of those victories. Canelo was still young and inexperienced when he faced Mayweather, and Pau was injured during their much-anticipated fight in 2015. Furthermore, Floyd's unwillingness to grant rematches, particularly with Pau, left lingering doubts for many fans. By contrast, Crawford's dominance has come against opponents who are considered at their best when facing him. This comparison fuels endless debates on whether Mayweather's perfection in the ring was more about skill or about calculated timing and matchmaking.
Floyd Mayweather is still greater than Terence Crawford. We need to really talk about this now. A lot of you guys are putting Crawford a bit too high. If you want to say Crawford could beat Floyd, I'm more open to that conversation, but when you're lining up the careers, I'm going to say Floyd every time. While they're both 5 division, Bud has become 3-time undisputed, but he's only fought 10 world champions to Floyd's 25 world champions. You can't take away the 5 division, 3-time undisputed. In terms of accolades, yeah, he probably gets the nod over Floyd. I say the accolades are about relative, considering Floyd Mayweather won Fighter of the Decade as well. But when you get to the resumes, Pacquiao, Oscar, Canelo, Cotto, Mosley, Castillo, Marquez, Zab, Gotti, Hatton, and Corley. There's probably way more people that this guy just didn't name. And then when you get to Bud's resume, not saying it's just bad, but the only names that's really worth mentioning is going to be Spence and Canelo. It's not a knock on Bud. Bud was not able to make those fights early on in his career. But I got to tell you guys what it is. Bud's resume just doesn't line up with Floyd's. Take their top 20 wins. Bud don't even got 20 wins to really sit here and name. Floyd got a good 20-something plus. Bud probably got about 10 wins that we could really sit here and name. Floyd's still greater than Bud in my opinion.
Tony Jeffries, a respected boxing analyst, has emphasized that Floyd Mayweather's greatest weapon was not just his defense or speed, but his mindset. According to Jeffries, Floyd's unwavering belief that he could beat anyone was what made him truly formidable, even in fights where the odds seemed close. Mayweather's confidence in supreme boxing IQ always gave him an edge. His ability to read opponents adapt within seconds and stay calm under pressure set him apart from other fighters who relied solely on physical gifts. Jeffries notes that this psychological edge combined with technical precision made Floyd appear almost unbeatable, and it is why he retired with an unblemished record.
Strong mindset, they're really confident, they really believe in themselves, but you need more than that mindset. You need to have the full package of everything that I'm talking about, what Floyd has got.
Fighters should only want to get better. The more you win, the more you should work hard. If you think about losing, you're gonna lose. All I ever thought about was winning. So that's all I know.
Floyd would visualize his success before he even stepped into the ring. there was no alternative to him but winning. And this mindset isn't just for boxing, it's for all walks of life. And I've actually done a full video talking about how I used this mindset of visualization to win my Olympic medal. And it was an absolute game changer. Now, Floyd used to use this mindset to ease the pressure that he put himself under. And he made himself think like, I'm not under any pressure right now, where he was under immense pressure.
Pressure either makes you or break you. Well, you see where I'm at, so it's obvious that I'm the type of athlete, or I'm the type of entertainer that can deal with pressure. There's never no pressure.
Now, if you watch his fight in 2013, when he fought Canelo Alvarez, Canelo came in a young, strong, undefeated fighter, but by round 2, Floyd kind of had him figured out. He was reading Canelo's jab. He would slip outside and then come back with a clean counter punch, then move his feet and get out of the way. He basically had the full fight under control, and he was controlling the full rhythm of the fight. He was forcing Canelo to fight at his pace. And this is what he would do in all of his fights. He would get his opponent to do what he wanted them to do without their opponent even realizing it, which is what we call boxing IQ. Now, even though I'm not a fan of Floyd Mayweather personally, because of the time when I did meet him, what he said to me made me just feel like this guy is a piece of shit.
The community is always hungry for intriguing matchups, and recently, one of the most talked about possibilities is Terence Crawford facing David Benavidez. Benavidez brings size, power, and relentless aggression qualities that present a unique challenge. Fans see this fight as the kind of risk that could push Crawford beyond anything he has faced so far. The speculation continues to swirl even though nothing has been officially announced. What this debate shows is the longing among fans for high-risk, legacy-defining fights rather than exhibition spectacles that carry more financial weight than sporting value. Crawford versus Benavidez would represent the clash of skill versus size, precision versus aggression, making it a dream fight for many boxing followers. Well, not me, but shock the world.
Not me, but shock the world. This past Saturday, Mexican Independence Day weekend, what he took on defeated another first ballot Hall of Famer, but he essentially jumped up 3 weight classes, technically 2, from 154 to 168, but only had 1 fight at 154 last August against Israel Majimov. Terence Crawford defeated Saul Canelo Alvarez, who is a 4-division champion, 2-time undisputed super middleweight, and the reigning, at the time, super middleweight world champion, undisputed world champion. And Terence Crawford beat him handily and convincingly. And because he beat him so easily, now the 63 win, 3 loss, 2 draw, 39 win by way of knockout, biggest threat has been now imposed on Terence Bud Crawford. And that's the Mexican Ecuadorian monster, David Benavidez, who is a 2-division undefeated world champion, is the 2-time WBC super middleweight and reigning WBC light heavyweight, 175-pound champion, who has a record of 30 wins, no loss, no draw, 24 wins by way of knockout. He stands 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach. This is a fight that David Benavidez has been calling for Canelo Alvarez when he was at 168, and Canelo Alvarez strategically maneuvered around him. But Canelo Alvarez is 5'7", with a 70-inch arm reach, started his career at 147 pounds, made his real name at 154 pounds. He's not a big guy, okay? And styles make fights. Benavidez is 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach. His last fight at 168 against Demetrius Andrade, he rehydrated to 193. So he's a big guy. Canelo Alvarez probably rehydrate to 182, maybe 185 max, right? He's not a big guy, right?
Comparing Floyd Mayweather and Terence Crawford is a debate with no clear resolution. Both fighters faced the best available in their respective eras, and both came out on top with dominant performances. While Floyd's perfect record and defensive mastery set him apart in his generation, Crawford's ability to move up in weight and still dominate is equally extraordinary. What complicates the argument is that their eras and circumstances differ too much. For a direct comparison, Ultimately, it may be impossible to declare one greater than the other, but together they represent the highest standards of boxing excellence.
My goodness, I said that was going to happen. If Crawford was to win, we're going to be seeing a lot of these debates on whether or not Floyd Mayweather or Terence Crawford is going to be better. Now, this is going to be a debate for a long, long time. I'm talking about one of those debates like LeBron versus MJ, Messi versus Ronaldo. It's one of those. And the thing is, I can get behind it. Let me go ahead and say this. When it comes to resume, I do think we give Floyd Mayweather the edge. I mean, he beat a bunch of champions. He reigned for a long time. While Crawford, his resume is heavily criticized, and he's just not getting, his kind of respect for beating Errol Spence and Canelo Alvarez. But if we're talking strictly off of skills, this is where things get really, really tough to talk about. I think a fair assessment of this matchup would be Floyd Mayweather wins from 135 and 140, while Crawford wins from 147 to 154. And I say that because I feel like Floyd's style changed once he got to welterweight. He became a more defensive fighter, and he just wasn't as much focused on offense. And knowing this, I feel like Crawford would have had a much better chance of handling him. And we all know, Crawford was an absolute monster at welterweight. But hey, man, like I said, this is going to be a debate for a very long time. And I can't wait to hear all the talk about it. But I'm curious on your thoughts. Who do you think wins in the fight, Floyd or Terence Crawford? Let's talk about it, and follow me for more boxing talk.
Greg Hackett's words about Crawford's win over Canelo perfectly capture the symbolic meaning of that fight by calling Canelo the best in boxing. Hackett emphasizes how dominant and feared Canelo had been in the sport for more than a decade. Crawford's ability to not only face him, but take control and dismantle him signals a dramatic power shift. In Hackett's view, Crawford has now become the new predator in the waters. The fighter everyone else fears, the one sitting at the very top of the sport. This victory did not just add to his resume, it redefined the landscape of boxing, marking Crawford as the man who dethroned the shark and became the hunter himself.
Because you got to remember, Canelo is the guy right now in the sport that's supposed to be the man, big bad wolf. You beat him, you the wolf. Now it's like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, who else I'm going to fight? You beat the shark, you beat the wolf. Right. Damn. Like, you know what I mean? Ain't no more ops out there. It's ops out there, but who gonna make them really want to get up? That's the
shit. Got to make sense. Like you said, you be the shark and then you be the wolf.
Yeah.
But there's the monster.
Yeah, there is, but that's like a real monster.
Bro, that's to me it don't make sense. But that's
really
what.
A monster.
Yo, is that proof? All right, we got the legendary Pape in the building. Legend. But what makes sense? Like, what makes the most sense? I know you said get a line of suits, Brooks Brothers.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Your line of suits, get your money, man. Go ahead and get the easy money, man. You ain't got to sweat no more.
What's up, boy?
Not saying you ain't got to work, you ain't got to sweat.
What's happening?
He's paved a career where he could sit down at a table and get this money. He could come out with a Terence Crawford series now, just doing whatever he like to do. People gonna watch it. Nobody. The fighting part, people don't understand what it's like to be a fighter. A lot of times fighters really don't be interested in certain fights. It's because when a guy see himself up here and then is fighting a guy down here, it don't interest him. So therefore, when he train, he not gonna really train. He gonna train, but he not gonna train. He not gonna listen. He gonna feel like his coach taking it too serious, and he's like, man, this ain't even that.
Crawford's victory over Canelo Alvarez was a career-defining moment that elevated him beyond any lingering doubts before this triumph. His win against Errol Spence had already silenced. Many critics who questioned his opposition against Spence Crawford showcased his ability to completely control a fight from start to finish. However, it was the dismantling of Canelo, a fighter considered nearly untouchable, that cemented his place in history. Analysts now widely agree that with these victories, Crawford has ended any debate about whether he belongs among the greatest fighters of all time. His ability to outclass champions in multiple divisions proves his dominance beyond argument,